So for those who don't know who you are, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's DJ Shipley. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a retired Navy SEAL, and I'm a knowledge transfer specialist. I am the co-founder and co-CEO of GBRS Group. How was that?
That was good. It's awkward, right?
Yeah, people always ask what you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And where were you from originally?
I was born in San Diego and then moved to Chesapeake in probably three or four. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I can actually remember. I can remember touring the house, like way back in the day.
At 3 years old.
3, 4, yeah.
Oh.
I'm young.
Okay.
I mean, I remember like pre-elementary school. Like I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is surprising because my memory's shot. Big gaps in time. I can't remember anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
Come from a Navy family?
Yeah, mom and dad were both Navy. A big military family. My uncles on my dad's side, Army Ranger, Marine. My grandfather was in the precursor of the Air Force, like the Army Air Corps, flying fighter
Very
jets.
nice.
And then his sister's an airline pilot. My grandfather was an airline pilot. Uncle's an airline pilot. Yeah, I mean, grandfather on my mother's side was in World War II, fought all the way through that thing. So that's cool. There's a lot of military pride come from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, parents are both in the Navy, both met in San Diego, got stationed together. And then he went to Buds. My mom was pregnant with me. So when he graduated, I was probably, I think my mom was like 8 months pregnant with me. But right when he checked into Team 1, she gave birth to me.
So your dad was a SEAL?
Yep.
And what did your mom do in the Navy?
A bosun's mate, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, if you talk to anybody in the Navy, it's like a deck ape. You do whatever they want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just, painting, shipping paint, just doing the whole thing. With needs of the Navy. And as you progress up, you get, drive small vessels and do this, do that, some ceremonial stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a jack of all trades. It's not the most glamorous job in the Navy for sure. That's actually what I was before we had our own rate.
You were a bosun's mate?
Uh-huh. Probably the last one in the teams.
Oh, yeah?
And nobody's really signing up to do that job.
So the teams don't really have a rating anymore, just special
They do
operator?
now. Yeah, when I first came in, there was, call it 12, like, source ratings you could be.
Mm-hmm.
Be a bosun's mate, a gunner's mate, an intelligence specialist, an operational... Like, there's a couple different rates. You had to be one of those in order to go. And the issue with making rank is you're judged on all your peers. So if you take a guy who is an information specialist or intelligence specialist, whatever it's going to be, that dude is in that field all day long. You went to a 3-week school and then you never touch it again for 20 years. So every time you go up to make rank, they're only testing you on the one thing you don't know anything about.
Mm.
So it was kind of unfair. And then when they gave you your own rating, I don't know if it was any better, but at least now you should know the majority of the questions.
Right.
No.
How were you as a child growing up?
Well, I thought I was terrific. In actuality, grew up on a family farm, small, but a lot of stuff out there. Ducks, chickens, horses, goats, guinea hens, and ostrich. I mean, we had everything. And it's a lot to deal with. The old man was gone on the road a lot of deployments. A lot of times just me and my mom. Had a sister 5 years younger than me. So it was basically just the three of us kind of in that house doing not a whole lot. And because you were out you've been out there.
Mm-hmm.
You drive down to Blackwater,
Yep.
we drive past my family's house, and there's not a lot going on out there. So we've got a little neighborhood right next to my house that I would skateboard in. Had some older kids kind of looked up to, and they were in the BMX, the skateboarding, so that was like my one outlet. So I'd come home, knock out all my chores, tell my parents I didn't have homework, and I'd immediately go out and skate. Or, I'd go hunting with the old man whenever he was in town, stuff like that, but I mean, I'm almost 40 now. I've never had handcuffs put on me, so I couldn't have been that bad.
That's good.
But just, I was always out doing something. Like, we didn't have the internet. I mean, to the day I joined the Navy, we didn't have the internet. It was one of those weird things, like DirecTV was like the one huge thing. We finally got that. But at the same time, I moved out. So watching old VHS tapes of Commando and whatever else I could get my hands on.
It's a good movie.
Great movie. And then, basically took skating as far as I could go. I got hurt a lot as a kid. I was very, I wouldn't going to say reckless, but not as calculated as I am now. Like the risk versus reward, I would just kind of send it. And it sucks getting hurt, especially as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know anything. Like, you're very new in your own vessel, and now you break an arm, or you break a foot, or you do something. It's like, it really kind of derails you from the one thing that I had looking forward to, was skating. And now anytime I get hurt, like, that was my punishment. You got hurt, you got punished. Like, now there's no skateboarding. Oof. Like, I really don't want that. I really just want to spend all my free time skating. That's all I ever wanted to do. And you still got that thing in the back of your mind, like, you can't get hurt, why? And that was my old man's big push. He's like, if you get a bunch of screws pumped in you, the Navy's not going to take you. You'll never be a SEAL. You'll never have the opportunity to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the one thing always hanging over my head. Is you can't get in trouble because of this. You can't get hurt because of that. If any of these things happen, then you can't go. It's like, it's a lot to process as a little kid. I mean, because that's been around my neck as long as I can remember.
Was being a SEAL something that was ingrained in you?
Yeah.
That they wanted you to become a
Oh,
SEAL?
for sure. Yeah.
Did you want to become a SEAL?
You know, you're so young when that is spoon-fed into you that I don't believe you really know what you're saying. Like, it sounds cool in theory. Like, oh, you get to be a commando. You're like, cool. You don't really know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the people joining the pipeline, you don't really know what that means. I got to see it in real time. And I'll say, my old man was good about that, about always keeping me around it. Because maybe I was a hellion. I don't remember, but he would take me to the team quite a bit, especially in like summertime. If there's nothing to do with the house, my mom doesn't want to deal with me, he would take me and drop me off at the team. I'd roll in there, and I'd be 10, 11 years old, and he'd walk me right to the Team 2 gym and just leave me. Like, there were 4 or 5 areas I could go into the team where nobody would mess with me, and I'd spend hours in the gym, hanging out with all the new guys.
Just working out?
Watching them lift, just seeing what they do. And, you know, they'd be in there talking shit to me, messing with me. It was great. Like, I loved it.
And where was he?
Maybe upstairs in like the platoon hut having meetings or doing whatever else, and he just dropped me off. I had kind of free reign around that whole base. Kind of just run around. I'd go to the library and watch movies. I'd go to the gator pool and go swimming. I'd do kind of whatever you wanted to. It wasn't bad.
Did you have an idea what being a team guy was back in the day,
sure.
growing up?
Like, he'd take me on training trips.
Oh yeah.
So like, he'd teach like a big demo trip, and I'd go out there. We'd stay in tents. We'd stay in the barracks with the guys, and he'd be running a course, and I'd just be sitting in the back. I'd bring my skateboard, and they got me doing kickflips over cases of beer at the end of the night and stuff like that. So I mean, you were always in it. I mean, they used me as a prop one year. They were doing a surveillance course or surveillance detection course, and they mic'd me all up, and I was skateboarding around the neighborhood, taking photos, and telling them when this guy was following them and what vehicle they were in, and stuff like that. I mean, you got exposed to the culture, but not what the job was.
Right.
So like, you would see the guys come in on Zodiac boats, just reeking like bug spray, camouflage paint all over them, you know, the rubber weapons and the whole thing. I thought it was the coolest shit on earth. And then when you look back on it, you're like, dude, I know that was miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're in Chesapeake, Virginia in the middle of August, 300% humidity, and you've just been getting crushed by mosquitoes for the last 12 hours laid up in this bullshit hide side. Like, you're miserable. And now I see it, I'm like, but it was cool to be exposed to it, to see it. Because in my mind, they were all happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody ever really complained about it. Like, everything was all cool in the gang. So it was cool to see. It motivated you for those times when you didn't know if you really wanted to do it. But they showed you how cool the culture was and how much people wanted to be a part of it at a young age. I think it helped.
It's got to be one hell of an experience, right? Growing up, being surrounded by these men, and just doing all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, and you know, if I'm being honest now, it really gives you a skewed optic on the world. Maybe not the best one.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all I grew up around. Like, we didn't have any real friends or any kind of male influence that wasn't a SEAL. Like, I never had anybody. There was never a time when I'd go over to like my buddy's house and I'd see his dad. I'm like, dude, your dad is fucking badass. Never. It's never one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But any time that I would go home, I always had a figure to kind of emulate. Like, I mean, especially for a little kid, like, he was scary as shit, dude. I mean, he's my height, probably 240, 250, covered in tats, like, just very intimidating, very loud, very stern. And then when you'd see all his buddies, they would come over. We'd do these ragers at my parents' house in the 90s, where, I mean, 30, 40 people would come stay the night. Everybody's sleeping in tents and cars, and there's just chicks everywhere, and single team guys, and just the way they looked, the way they acted. It's like, these are the coolest dudes I'll ever get to be around. And it was like that everywhere you went, and you never got to see normal people.
Okay.
Like, my first exposure to normal people was going to school. It's like you see them all, you see your teachers, like, oh man, like, these are what normal people are. And you get to go back home and you're like, why is everybody so different from these people?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? And you can't put them together because, either I didn't have the relationship with my parents to really ask or really dive into it. And like, why are you so much different than Brian's dad? Like, you don't really get it. Like, you just do a job. You do a job in the Navy. You don't really get to see all the different pieces. Like, oh, his dad's in pharmaceutical sales. I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
But there's something definitely different. Like, when Brian's dad comes home, it's very different when my parents come home, when my dad comes home. Like, the stuff they talk about, the stuff they do on the weekends is very different. The movies they watch, the communication. And, I mean, we talked about that before. Like, I feel like my growing up, my childhood was like my old man was raising a new guy.
Mm.
Like, a lot of it was tough love. A lot of it was do as I say, not as I do. But, I mean, not in a bad sense. It was just, there wasn't any, in my experience, there wasn't any difference in being raised by him and then checking into a team and getting the old guys to do knowledge transfer on you. It was no different. It was the exact same thing.
It's almost safe to equate it to the Spartans back in old Greece.
Yeah, I wasn't as hard as those kids were.
Oh, yeah.
And I only say that because I grew up with, majority of the time, I'd say greater than 75 or 80% of my childhood until I joined the Navy was solely with my mother. And my mom's harder than Woodpecker lives. I mean, she just was. But it's different.
Yeah.
It's different when he comes back in. Just a different flow. But I thought it made that transition from growing up in that environment, transition into the military, it made it pretty easy because I don't know anything else. Like, if my dad would have been some pacifist or some super religious dude and I've never heard swear words and I've never seen, the dark side, I've never seen dark humor, I've never been exposed to any of that, it would have been a super culture shock for me. You walk into a team room, I think that's one, I say a superpower, one of the things that was the easiest for me is to get along with team guys. It's because it's the only thing I've known my whole life. So when you walk into a room with 25 people that are all team guys and you're all trying to impress them, at the end of the day, I don't have a hard time engaging with those people because I know what you are at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, I know exactly who you are. I know the conversations you have. I know how you speak to your wife. I know the jokes. I know the dark humor. I know all of that stuff. I know there's a tin of Copenhagen rolling around the floor bed of your truck right now. Like, I know all the different things. So it's a lot easier to see them for a human vice some Herculean figure that you make up in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know exactly who that guy is.
Mm.
And to me, it made it easy to relate to him, but it made it easy to connect to him as well. Like, when I see there's something wrong with him, I know what it is.
Do you think being surrounded and being in that community as a child, was there a pretty stark contrast in how you interacted with your classmates, your teachers, anyone who wasn't a SEAL or the NSW?
Nope.
No.
And for a long time, like, I didn't realize it was a big deal. And maybe it's not a big deal. So to some people it is when you find out that your dad's a Navy SEAL, your dad's a this or that. Like, oh shit, no one ever did that. In the 90s, I mean, people made fun of you. And when people were like, what's your dad doing? Like, oh, he's in the Navy. What's he do? He's a SEAL. They'd make a stupid joke.
Right.
They don't even know what it was. I'm like, no, like, my dad's like a commando. And they're like, what's a commando? Like, shit. You don't know how to articulate it. Like, I don't know. He's like, you seen like Rambo? It's like that. And it's like, Rambo was in the Army. And you're like, you don't really know anything. Well, you see Navy SEALs? I'm like, well, nobody who's 9 years old has been able to watch Navy SEALs other than me. Yeah. It's like, they don't know what you're talking about. There's no video games out.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a lot of it it kind of whitewashed and you just never talked about it anymore. You just I just waited for the bell to sound, the bell to end. I hated school, dude.
You did?
Every second, oh man.
How were you as a student then?
I was good at the things I wanted to do, and the things I didn't want to do, I couldn't be made to do them. No. Like, I hate math. History I'm cool with, creative writing, English literature, that kind of stuff I'm cool with, but for the majority of school, I didn't like it. I hated being there. I hated the rules, I hated the homework, I hated all of it. And to this day I do. People always ask, like, Am I going to college and getting some master's? No. Nope. I'm not ever going to school again. I hated it. And there's nothing I want to know how to do that I need to go to school to learn how to do.
Especially nowadays.
No. You want to go to trade school? Sure. Like, I don't want to go to college. For what?
English lit.
Dude, I respect people that do, but I hated school. And then, later on down the road, figure out you have ADHD really, really bad, and then it all makes sense. You're like, oh, that's why. That's why I hated school so much.
ADHD wasn't a thing back in the day.
They called it ADD. They used to give
Was
kids
ADD?
Ritalin. Yeah, give kids Ritalin.
In the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really wish I would have had the opportunity to be on that just to see how I could have been. Maybe I would have been great in school, but I wasn't. I mean, if I wanted to get something, it's that plain pleasure threshold. If you want something, you have to go through a significant amount of pain in order to get it. So I wanted to get X, Y, and Z, and my old man would throw some impossible tasks. He's like, cool, man. He's like, I'll 100% let you get an earring. I'll let you do whatever you want to if you bring straight A's home. Oh, shit. Well, how can I do this? And then I'd figure out a way. I'd come home with straight A's. Cool. Very first time I get in trouble, snatch it right out of my ear. Nope. Shit. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I could turn it on when I wanted to. I had no desire. And my parents weren't people that really gave a shit about school. I mean, I can't really think of a time where we ever sat down and we went through like homework together.
Right.
I either decided to do it because I needed to do it, or I just told them I didn't have it and I just didn't do it. I don't recommend that for anybody else, but that's definitely how I was.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I don't fail, nobody cares.
So clearly, growing up, your parents, your dad, SEAL community had an influence in you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, would you consider more like a preparatory course, basically, to join into the Navy? Did it work you out hard, make sure you're physically fit?
I mean, we were always fit. We were always swimming. We would always do underwater challenges. And now when I think back on it, a lot of it was little micro confidence boosters.
Okay.
Well, like small things. Like we had a small pond we dug in the backyard. We stocked with catfish. And we would be out in the back and he would throw a brick into it. He's like, go down and grab that brick. Like, you can't see shit. I mean, it's jet black. You see nothing. So you're just on a breath hold, just feeling around this acre deep pond where you think it is until you find it. And it's like, hey, go down and bob up and down for 10 minutes. I'll tell you when you're done. Stuff like that. Or like we'd be in a pool, like doing breath hold training. Like, I mean, I've been able to knock out a 50-meter underwater swim since I was knee high to a duck. Like,
just random breath hold exercises.
Yeah, like just to get comfortable in the water.
Mm-hmm.
But he was really hell-bent. Like, he didn't want me to do anything that he thought would throw me for a loop. Like, my grandfather wanted to take me open circuit scuba diving. Absolutely not. Never. I was like, nope. I don't want him to learn anything that he has to unlearn. I don't want you to give him a bad experience. He has
right.
an AGE. He develops a fear of diving. Nope. Same thing with skydiving, any of that. Like, I wanted to graduate high school and go skydiving. He's like, nope. You join the Navy, you become a SEAL, you go skydive with those guys. Nope. Go.
Now, becoming a SEAL, was that more like his dream for you, or was it yours as well?
I'd say primarily that was him and my mother's dream that was kind of forced on me, and I just adopted it because I didn't have any other options. Like, I loved animals. And if I would have been smart enough to be a vet, I would have loved to be a vet. Like, I love animals. I love doing anything with them. I mean, to this day, if I could pick one job that you could just transfer knowledge and make me one, I'd be a vet. Like, I love animals. That's just not in my wheelhouse, and I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm only good at a couple things, and a lot of those things and a lot of the obsession components you have to have just do really well with that kind of environment. Being in the military, not a really constrained force that give you avenues to kind of take it on your own path. And I'm good at that. I'm really good at slide me a post-it note, tell you what you want me to do, and then just leave me alone, let me figure it out. I'm good at that. I don't like this rigid structure. That's why I hated school. I hate people having me do that. And I think at a certain point, you kind of just accept that. Like, if you were to ask me at 15 what do I want to do, professional skateboarder. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. And it was slowly but surely getting kind of taken away from me. Just time and money and opportunity. It's like, you live in Chesapeake, dude. You're not going pro. Like, if you're honest with yourself, like, you're not good enough to go pro. If I would have grown up in San Diego, very different story. growing up in
Yeah.
Chesapeake, the progression that I really needed to achieve, I was 5 years too late. Right? Like, I was good, but I was never going to be that dude.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, are you going to sit there and chase this dream till you're 25 and then try to go to Buds or try to join the Navy, or are you going to be working at Home Depot? What are you going to do? Kind of like strike when the iron's hot. And some things kind of added up, and, you know, the towers dropped during my sophomore year. I got into a little bit of trouble, and, yeah, he signed me up for summer school my junior year.
Mm-hmm.
And went through my junior year, hit summer break, and I did 3 months and graduated early. And I was in the Navy in 30 days.
How old were you when you joined the Navy?
I'm 17.
17.
And I didn't know anything.
Mm.
Nothing. Like, when I got off the bus at boot camp, I didn't know my social security number. Like, I didn't know anything. I didn't have a bank account. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have shit. Like, it was surreal, dude. Like, I couldn't believe it was happening to me. Like, it was like, this isn't happening, this isn't happening. I just signed these paperwork. I just passed the ASVAB. I did this, I did that. Like, I'm leaving Tuesday. I'm getting on this bus, and I don't know where I'm going. It's like, we just show up, and we're in Great Lakes. We're getting off, and these dudes are yelling at us. And it was like this weird Twilight Zone. Like, I can barely remember boot camp. It was like such a surreal experience. Like, you can't call home. You're writing these weird letters. They're shaving your head. You're in sweatsuits. It feels like for months, and then all of a sudden, you're like doing these random courses for a job that you're never really anticipating you're ever going to do. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, it felt so weird.
How was boot camp for you?
Culture shock for sure.
Right.
Culture shock. And I felt like I had to get ready for Buds, and they weren't giving me the opportunities to get ready for Buds. So you would set up these little, you know, you'd wake up 2:30 in the morning, you'd do like these PT evolutions with all the guys that want to be SEAL, EOD, SWIC, diver. Like, you guys would all huddle in the back corner when nobody's looking, just cranking out push-ups, flipping over racks, doing pull-ups, pushing them together, doing dips, just trying to get ready for the screen test, because you never really know when it's going to come. And the performance anxiety started to creep up, and it was like the first time in my life I could really sit down, I could feel it. Like, because they kept telling you, like, because I didn't have a SEAL contract, I didn't have shit.
That's what I was going to ask.
Oh, brother, I was undesignated. And anybody who's ever joined the military, SF, you know, Ranger, MARSOC, anything like that, they have these prereqs you can do, and now you're guaranteed a slot in Buds if you pass all these tests. I didn't have any of that. I was a normal dude, one out of, 53,000 who were going through my class. Like, you have to pass this test on this date or you ain't going. Well, they're not letting us run. Like, I haven't ran in weeks. Like, how am I going to be ready for this? And you start to think, like, dude, what if I get stuck? Like, what if I fail? Like, what if I'm stuck in the Fleet Navy for 4 years? Oh, God. Now what? And, like, you really start to panic. And they never really told you what was going to happen. And it happens to everybody. And I know everybody's got horror stories. You get so sick in boot camp, just from all these nasty creatures being packed into one room. I mean, they're savages. We all are. And everybody gets super sick. And by God, that's the day. You wake up in the morning, they rush you in this big-ass auditorium. They show you this little promo video for special operations and SEAL and diver, SWIC, EOD. And like, if you want to do this, you got to be able to pass this physical test. And we'll be doing it tomorrow at 7 a.m. Oh, shit. Tomorrow's the day.
And those are for the undesignated guys.
That's for everybody.
Everybody.
Yep. Now, like, I think you got different deals. So if you pass because you've passed a bunch of screen tests, you go to a special division, you do all that. We didn't have any of that. No special division for us, man. We're all packed in. I think
Just a hodgepodge of guys.
I think I was the only dude in my graduating class that actually passed and went to Buds.
Really?
Yeah.
Out of how many you think?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to ask somebody who's
Couple
got a better
hundred?
memory than me. I mean, a lot. But I mean, out of the graduating division, all those, I mean, a couple thousand kids, 2 or 3 guys actually passed and got orders to Buds. Like, it's not very common.
That physical prep growing up definitely helped you through boot camp, would you say?
No.
No?
Nope. The physical prep I would do as a kid would be like relay races. It'd be throw a 100-pound bag of feed over your shoulders, sprint down to the barn and come back. Your buddy would relay you. Who can do it the fastest? Do 20 push-ups and run down there. Who can do the most pull-ups? Like, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I never learned how to pace myself because I was never working out like a professional athlete. I never had anybody that really knew what they were talking about to kind of train me. It's like, if you want to get good at pull-ups, do pull-ups. You want to get good at push-ups, do push-ups. You want to run better, run. Swim,
Yep.
swim. That's all I really knew. But when I came, I had no technique. I could pass the screen test and that was it, and not by a lot. I mean, I was 6'1", 145 pounds when I joined the Navy.
Damn.
Yeah, dude.
You were just stepping on the gas the whole time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my experience going through boot camp and buds is very different than I would say most people.
Right.
Most people are very physically prepared, especially the officers, the people that have played, high-level collegiate sports before. I mean, we got a bunch of D1 athletes in there. I mean, you have Olympians that go through. I mean, you got some freaks, dude. And I wasn't one of them.
What was your attitude sticking to the boot camp part of your life? Do you have any attitude going in knowing you were open, clean slate?
I was so humbled. I was so scared that I was going to get fucked over and get booted out of there. And I'd be shocked if anybody would say anything different. Like, I never thought I was cool because I finally got orders to buds or anything like that. Like, I was just, I want to get through this thing. I don't want anybody to know who I am. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to piss anybody off. I want to do my time, like, getting locked up for an 18-month prison sentence. I want to do my time and get out. Do my time and get out.
Right.
That's all I want. I just want to get to Coronado. That's all I want right now. And lucky enough for me, that's what happened.
And how long were you in boot camp?
Dude, I think boot camp's 8 weeks, maybe 12 weeks. But I couldn't tell you. I don't remember. I remember probably 3 significant events of all of boot camp, and outside of that, like, it's a blur. Like, my wife can remember every detail of boot camp. I can't remember any of it. It's like I whitewashed. It's kind of like I went on autopilot through the entire process. I don't remember anything.
What's one memorable event from boot camp you can share with us?
The initial getting off the bus, them bringing you in this room, and it was like you time traveled. Like, you would doze off. They tell you not to sleep. You would doze off, and people would be gone. And you would doze off, and then those people would be in sweatsuits. And then you doze off, and then more people in sweatsuits. You're like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden, you're up and you're walking. They take you back there. You get stripped down naked. Dudes are having you do all these weird checks. You get big lines that are shooting you with needles all over the place. You get new clothes. You get all this stuff, and then you go back in there, and it's like you touch down. What have I been doing? Did this hit me with something? That doing the workouts in your free time, playing pranks on each other. I remember a surreal moment for me is you finish what's it called, battle stations.
Okay.
It's like this big drill. It's kind of like the culmination of boot camp, all this stuff, and they give you a hat swap from the hat you wear when you go through Navy boot camp says recruit on it, and when you graduate battle stations, they give you one that says Navy on it. It's like now you're like a Navy sailor. And I remember sitting there, them handing out all the hats and people putting them on, and dudes were breaking down. I mean, emotionally just dumping, leakage, just crying their ass off, just so proud of what they had done. And I felt like I was missing out on something because I wanted to feel that. Like, I wanted to be excited as everybody else.
Right.
And I wasn't. I was like, when the fuck are we going to get out of here?
Because that's not what you wanted.
No, I just want to get to California, dude. I don't care about this hat. Like, I think I'll never put it on. It's like you never wear that. We have a big ceremony out at Bud's when you check in, you burn all of your regular Navy clothes. You burn them all. You burn the sweatsuits, you burn the dungarees, you burn everything that's Fleet Navy because you're never going to go. And it's funny because when guys quit, they don't make it. You see those same dudes that following week rebuying all that stuff at like the local NEX because now you have to get it remade.
Right.
Yeah, it's a big party. Shred them all, cut them all up. Yeah, boot camp was it was a thing you had to get through. I mean, I met some cool dudes in there, but nobody I ever kept in contact with. It was more just like, I have to get through this to get to that stage.
Yeah.
Let me just get through it as fast as humanly possible. It sucked though.
So when you got to, let's talk about Buds. When you got to Buds, were you still 17? It's easy to say that you might have been the youngest dude.
I was youngest in that class for sure.
Has anyone else been the youngest guy to enter Buds aside from you?
Oh yeah, I mean there's a handful of dudes that have done it at 17.
Okay.
It all just kind of depends on where you break out, like when your birthday is. And it's not common anymore. Just really because the process is so long to get into now. There's not that many. You'd have to graduate high school the day after your 16th birthday, go straight in to be able to make it through that process.
Right.
Because it's so hard to get in now. Or like the wait list to go to buds is years, depending on where you're at, what demographic you're coming from, what state and city.
Right.
It's a long process to get through, but yeah, I mean, I checked in at 17. We had one of our family friends that I grew up with forever. He was the XO of Buds itself, I believe, at the time, and he dropped me off at the quarterdeck.
So how awkward was that?
I didn't think it was awkward because I've known him my whole life. So like, he picks me up from the airport, I fly into San Diego, he picks me up, I go back to his house, hang out with him and his wife, we're eating carne asada tacos. He's driving me around. We go to, the old school spots that everybody goes to. Like, this is Jalisco's, this is McPee's, stay the fuck out of here, don't go in this bar, don't ever go in this place. And that this is where you go, this is where you check in, this is where your barracks is going to be. And he pulls me up to the front door of Bud's. I've got my little sea bag, I'm in my stupid uniform, and he walks me through. He's like, hey, this guy's checking in for Bud's. I'm dropping him off. He's like, cool. Walk me back to the barracks and essentially drop me off. And I forget how we lined it out, but they put you in a room, you're already assigned or something like that. And it's basically semi-open bay barracks, like you and 2 or 3 guys, sometimes 4 to a room or whatever. And right when I'm walking past, all the first phase instructor staff were standing right there. Oh. And they see the XO walking with a kid in Buds. And he looks over at him, and I start to make eye contact, and he's like, hey, nobody fuck with this kid. Right? It's Don Shipley's kid. I've known him for a long time. I've known him his whole life. I'm asking you, be professional, and please don't fuck with this guy. And a bunch of those guys I recognized because they were at Team 2, so
Right.
6 out of the 10 I knew. And I was like, shit. And then it started, it's like, oh, you are mine, motherfucker. And it just, the whole thing started to spin. I'm like, oh, man, I'm not going to make it. I walked back in, I dropped my bags, and it took 5 minutes. Shipley! Screaming out front, hit the surf. I'm like, what's that mean? They're like, I want you to run out in the surf and get completely wet, and I want you to roll around until every inch of your body is covered in sand, and then come back here. Okay. Sprint as fast as I can. He's like, missed a spot behind your ears. And it was that relay for hours, it felt like.
Man, that's what I was going to ask. How was your first day going in?
That's not even Bud yet. That didn't even start.
That's
like,
just...
This is like on a Saturday, getting ready for like a Monday class up. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, shit. It's always... I couldn't tell you. Anybody who went to Bud's with me will tell you. We'd be on runs down the middle of Orange Ave going to Chow, and a car would pull up at a 4-way. Where the fuck is Shipley at? I'd stick my head, he's like, drop! Like, I don't know who it is. It could be a random dude that works at Home Depot. But it's like, he knows, and you are dropping. You face the ocean, knock him out. Recover! Get up and run off, and it's like, who is that? I have no idea. I have no idea who that is.
Just some guy who told you.
Yeah, I had a bunch of guys volunteer to come out and work our Hell Week and stuff. So I mean, it was interesting. But that first day of Buds was surreal to me because I'd seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I watched, Be Someone Special, and Devils with Green Faces, the 224 video, 234 had just dropped. So like all these things on Discovery Channel, like it was finally catching steam. Like 9/11 had just happened. We're 2002, early 2003-ish. We're getting up for the Iraq campaign. Like, it's all the new hotness now.
Mm-hmm.
And, dude, it was, I couldn't believe I was there because I was so young. I'm supposed to be in high school. I don't have a cell phone. I don't have car. I can't buy dip. I can't buy beer. I can't go get a beer with the class. Like, the whole thing's really weird to me. And then, we class up. Everybody, you're shaking out who's who in the zoo, but there's so many people, you don't know who's going to make it. And we're about to run in for our very first day, and that very first PT, you're all jogging in unison, you're all screaming, you're all sounding off, singing the same cadence, you all line up on the grinder, and they walk out, this physical freak. Whatever he does, he's the dude. And it'll be doing 8-count bodybuilders. Ready, begin. I want 2, 3, and he'll just start, and you're like, okay, 50, 60, and like, he just keeps going. And then as soon as the class starts falling out, they'll switch exercise, new instructor, and they are just beating the shit out of you. And you can tell they wouldn't give you extra love right off the bat. They'd walk by, and you could see them staring at you. Or you could see guys come by, and they'd see your last name, it's stenciled on your shirt, and they'd lock in. They'd look at you, they'd look at your shirt, look at you, look at your shirt, and they'd walk over and whisper to somebody else. You see him pointing, like, yeah, that's him. they'd walk right up and they'd just stand over top and just watch you. It's like everybody else, you know, their feet will drop on the deck, like showing how tired you are. And it's like you're trying to fight through that. It's like this weird legacy alliance you're trying to form. Like, I'm going to push as hard as I can so you know I'm earning my seat at the table every day. But no matter what you do, it doesn't matter. You'll never be good enough. You'll never be strong enough. They're always going to find your weakness and they're going to exploit it. And for me, it was humbling because I've never been exposed to that much pressure to perform before. And because it happened so new, and I say that respectfully because I feel like when people grow up playing high-end high school football, high school athletics, college athletics, you're used to performing with the big bright lights on you.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't. Like, the most I ever did was skateboarding competitions. Some taekwondo shit and some martial arts shit when I was a kid, but nothing like that. Like, you imagine growing up in Texas playing for, like, state championship for high school football. That's a lot of pressure. And the people that had done that before, people that had been state championship wrestling matches, stuff like that, they're used to the bright lights, and I feel like they could combat it so much better than I could. And maybe they couldn't. Just from an outsider looking in, it certainly felt like they could.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like they handled performance anxiety so much better than I did. And used to drive me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I just tried to emulate how they were, and it just, because it wasn't natural for me, it was just, I'm just going to survive this. I'm just going to go as hard as I can, and that was my mindset throughout the entire thing. I'm just going to go for broke, and if I break, I break.
Right. That sudden shift in the dynamic in your relationship with the XO, it went from, hey, this is my dad's friend Jim, to he's the XO of Buds.
Yeah, dude.
How was that?
It was strange, and now I appreciate it. But because I was so young, I couldn't appreciate it back then. By him identifying with who I am, he's telling them, look out for this dude. If anything happens, call me.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to work him over. Like, there's no free rides here.
Right.
Like, I want you to break it off in his ass and make sure he earns his seat at the table. But they do have favoritism in the sense that if I would have gotten hurt, instead of potentially rolling me or dropping me from the class, that might have maybe bought me an extra day. Or, hey, call this dude, like, he might need to go to medical. By some guys, they'll just let you push through until you completely break. Like, there was some stuff like that. But, I mean, obviously, like, they didn't give a shit. I mean, I got rolled in second phase. I mean, they didn't care.
Yeah.
Like, they definitely would have dropped. There were definitely plenty of legacies that got shit canned throughout my class. So, I mean, that didn't really matter.
Was there quite a few of you guys? Legacy?
Yeah, there were probably 6 to 8 of us in there.
Oh, wow.
And that might have been fathers. I mean, some were dads, some were brothers, some were uncles that were in the teams that all the guys knew. Like Cole's uncle was a Vietnam frogman.
Right.
You know, stuff like that. But somehow they find out.
They always do.
Mm-hmm.
Would you consider it or look at it more that the fact that a lot of these instructors in the XO were pretty hard on you because it's to motivate you to succeed? Did you ever look at it in a negative way?
I looked at it as they're the keeper of the gate.
Okay.
They don't care who your dad is. They don't care who your brother is, your uncle, your nephew. They don't care. Like, if you don't show up and make it, there are no free rides, and they're the keepers of the gate. If you don't deserve to be here, that dude's going to make sure you don't get through. And it was cool because it felt like you were fighting uphill the whole time.
Mm.
It's like nothing I can do is good enough. I'm never going to be fast enough, never going to be strong enough, I'm never going to have the right answer and all this shit. And yeah, I mean, it was humbling because every day you had to show up and check in.
Mm.
No easy days. It's like rodeo. There's no easy day in rodeo. There was no easy day in Buds. It sucks. It sucks all the way through.
That must have been a motivating factor for you, number one, to push through and to never fail, right?
It's a lot of pressure. And then at a certain point, I think the pressure in not letting your parents down supersedes everything else. Like, I didn't want to be a Navy SEAL more than I didn't want to let my parents down. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Like, it wasn't like I had this burning passion, like, all I want to do is this one job. All I want to do is pass this course to not upset them. And then, through the process, I fell in love with it. Right? Like, I was too young to really understand what I did. If I would have went in at 21, maybe very different. Maybe it's like, I don't give a shit about my parents. All I want to do is be a Navy SEAL. Mine was very different. I don't want to let them down. And then when it came full circle, it's like, God damn, I love this. Oh my God, I love this. It just, the teams, in my opinion, do a better job than most organizations. Obviously, I'm biased, but They do a better job than most organizations of having you fall in love with the culture. They are so good about it. And then once you do, they've got you hook, line, and sinker. You'll do whatever it takes to stay. Yeah, I mean, for the majority of it, was just, I don't want to let them down. I don't want to fail for them. Through the course of you fall in love.
Was there any point in buds that was the hardest for you?
I'll say second phase because I got rolled for it. We had to do a bunch of diving stuff that was not hard. It's hard in the sense that you're underwater with, blacked out mask and they're tying a bunch of knots and you're hosing, you can't breathe and you're panicking. It's hard in that sense, but it was harder for me because the information that I got prepping for there, which is bad information. And a lot of that is you try to trust the people that have done the process before without listening to what the instructors say. So for me, my thought process was going through pool comp is they just don't want to see you panic. The procedures don't really matter. It's almost like if you get in the ring with Tyson and he's just tuning you the fuck up, you're not expected to win. You're expected to be there at the end of the round. It's like if I can just weather the storm, I'll earn his respect. That's the mindset I went there with. Is I'll hold my breath for 10 minutes. I'll die on the bottom of this pool deck. I don't give a shit. Watch me. That isn't what they wanted. They wanted me to be able to perform the procedures in the exact manner regardless of the stress and stimulus they were dumping on top of me. And that's not what I did. I essentially missed because I didn't do this.
And what is that?
It's a J valve. It's like an auxiliary tank. So when everything goes to shit, that's just part of your procedure. You trace, check, do all these different checks, and at the end of the day, you flick that to make sure you can't basically cycle your reserve component, reserve air, and get a breath.
Okay.
And I didn't do that twice back to back. It's like, fail. I'm like, okay. If I don't pass this one, if I don't pass my third attempt, I'm getting recycled to the next class. Like, okay. J-valve's all I'm thinking about, and I failed some other procedure. Like, you got to take off your tanks, you got to flip them a certain way, you got to stow your chest straps, put a weight belt over it. I did something out of sequence, and I failed again. It's like, but I didn't panic. I didn't bolt to the surface. A lot of people, they'll plant feet and they'll shoot to the surface and they'll give themselves an AG or an embolism or something like that. I was totally cool with that. And there were guys that, looking back on it, they had the right plan. They would go there on the weekends. You could check out these fake balsa wood, like these prep tanks. They would tie knots and they'd be going through the procedures, blindfolded, tracing, placing, rerouting all their equipment. And that's what I should have been doing. I wasn't doing that. I was working on breath holds and trying to find my zen spot, and that's not what I should have done.
Okay.
I should have been strictly focused on the procedures while breath holds and all the other stuff, and just about bad training methodology for me.
Couple steps back, for people who don't know, what's pool comp?
It's part of the dive phase. They give you an initial training block and teaching you how to dive, open circuit, normal regulator in your mouth, doing pace counts, diving back and forth, entering the water, getting out of the water, taking your tanks off, and you do a progressive build-up. So it'll go from just diving around with a buddy. I'm going to take my tanks off and put them on the deck, put my weight belt on, I'm going to hang out, I'm going to re-don it all. Now I'm going to do the same thing with a blackout mask. Cool. Now me and my buddy are both going to enter, and I'm the only one that has tanks on, and we have to buddy breathe.
Okay.
Then I have to take my tanks off and put them on him, still buddy breathe. Then we both have to take them on, both have to kiss the deck, and then exhale and come up to surface. There's all these different checks you have to get into. And then there's solo events. Now it's like a surf hit. So now it's you, they black out your mask, and then you start ripping you apart. Flipping you over, ripping off your weight belt, ripping your mask off, grind your head in the pool, just all these different
While
things.
blacked out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, even if they don't, the pool's all chlorine, so you really can't see shit anyway. Everything's all fogged up, and there's just fins in your face. And it's just progressive build-up to get you to the final evolution, which we are going to just beat the shit out of you underwater. Give you a knot you cannot solve, and now you're going to have to take off all your stuff, do this certain procedure, and go up. Once you do that, we'll introduce combat diving. That's a closed circuit system, the Draeger, no bubbles, no troubles, that whole thing. You got to get through all the open circuit until you can graduate to that. Then we start doing night dives and all this other shit.
So open circuit is the
scuba, the
standard
stuff
scuba
everybody
gear.
sees. Yep.
And in closed circuit's the Draeger.
Yep.
Where there's no bubbles. It's a rebreather, isn't it, or something like that?
Yep.
Okay. And you failed pool comp a few times because of the J valve.
Just a bad procedure. Just part of my ditching my equipment. I just And it's so crazy because in my mind, like, you have this mantra you would say, and I can't remember it now, but, it'd be like shoulder straps, waist strap, waist belt, inboard, outboard, like all this different stuff. You'd say it all, and you'd say that J valve. You would say it, and in the practice, you would say it, and you'd do this little flick with your hand, and for whatever reason, I just didn't do it.
How many tries did it take for you to pass?
3, and then I got rolled, and when I came in the following class, passed. I actually think on the first one, I think they failed me again, but it was for something crazy. I forget what it was.
Can you walk us through when you actually finally passed?
Yeah, man. They, if I remember correctly, there was something weird that was happening because I rolled in a Cole's class, and I think we were doing pole comp on Halloween. And if I remember correctly, I'd have to ask the boys, I thought we did it on like a Saturday. I think we had to come in on a Saturday and do it, and that's what everybody wanted to do. Everybody wanted to pass pole comp and be done with this shit. And then on Monday, we would start rebreather. And I remember a bunch of dudes that already went. I was one of the last guys getting ready to go. And whoever my instructor was, I'm on the pool deck, prepared to enter the water, and right before I stepped in, one of the instructors screamed in there, "Shipley's getting in the pool." And I watched a bunch of them. They came sprinting out of the instructor lounge and dove into the water. So when I hit the water, when I looked down, there was just a sea of instructors that were standing on the bottom of the pool with their arms crossed, weight belts on, with snorkels in their mouth, just waiting, and they beat the shit.
Breath holding.
Yeah, dude.
That's badass.
Oh, dude, they're freaks, dude. Oh,
that's cool.
They're so impressive. Like, they make it look so cool. It sucks. Yeah, anyway, you go down, they've got all these different drills and stuff they do. Like, they kind of do a progressive build-up. They'll roll you a little bit, they'll take off this piece of equipment, give it all back. And I remember, we had that guy, Richard, that was doing the, shooting the book for our class.
Right, no easy day, right?
And he was in there taking photos and all that. And I remember this because at the end, a bunch of the cadre talked about it. I walked down, and one of the instructors came up, he swam right up to me, he's like, just chill out. Okay, he's like, take a big inhale. Take a big exhale. He's like, take a big inhale. I'm like, okay, this motherfucker's coming. He's like, all the way out. I'm like, exhale and bubbles. He's like,
anxiety's kicking in.
Oh yeah. He's like, take a big one. Like, take this huge breath in. He's like, I'm blowing out. He's like, blow. He goes and pops that thing in my mouth.
Oh man.
And rips me apart, dude. So I kicked off my final attempt on a dead exhale.
No air.
No air. There was nothing holding me. Just in. It's funny because you'll talk to guys that get to certain points. That might be jumping for guys. That might be entering a threshold. There is something that you finally hit the switch where you go, I just don't care anymore. I'd rather just die on the bottom of this pool deck. I'd rather just die right here, right now, than tap out or quit. I don't give a shit. And I hit that moment like 5 seconds in. I was like, I don't care. I don't care. I went through the procedures. I could feel everything getting real tingly. I could feel my vision starting to tunnel. Yeah. My heart rate wasn't elevated anymore. Like, it felt like I was dying right there on the bottom of the pool. And I had this calm come over me. I was like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. I remember pulling off the tanks and doing it all, and I could feel myself convulsing. And then it all went away. I'm like, oh shit, I'm dying right now. Here we go. Oh, this is how this happens. Like, I don't care. Because if you black out and they bring you to the surface, but you've done all the steps, you pass. So if you black out and you die and they revive you, it's like, pass. You're good. So I didn't care at that point. I remember going through all the procedures, and I remember when I stowed my last shoulder strap and I put the weight belt over it. I had done everything. I knew I did. And I was like, I'm going to black out right now. I kissed the pool deck, came up, exhale, and you're supposed to say, I feel fine. And when I came to the surface, I was so fucked up. I was like, he's like, say it. I couldn't speak. Like, my lips were purple. And it finally came back, I feel fine. He's like, pass. And it was so surreal that I passed. I'm like, there's nothing else in this program I can't do. Like, that was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I've ever had to overcome my entire life. Now that I've made it through this, there's nothing that I'm worried about now. Because everything now is, it's nighttime diving, it's shooting, it's like, it's all this SEAL shit now. It's like, oh, this will be fun. Like, this will be good now. And when I came out, I forget, one of the cadre, he came over, he's like, I wish we would have filmed that. I said, why? And he's like, I've never seen a pool comp that bad. He's like, do you know how many instructors were fucking with you that whole time? I was like, I don't, man. I blacked out. And he's like, You were probably at a 5-minute breath hold on a full exhale. I don't remember any of it. I just went through the motions. I remember my whole body went tingly, and I remember kissing the deck and coming up in here and pass. That's it. So it was a shark swarm, dude. They beat the piss out of me. But that's how it should be. You don't want it to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that with guys going through selection courses now. And I'm not saying don't prepare for a selection course. You should definitely over-prepare. But there are a lot of people that are so physically gifted. They're so mentally gifted, and they've trained for so long. Your selection course is very different than a lot of other people. And you might not hit any hiccups in that entire process. So you've never really had to face any adversity.
Yeah.
Or the guys that have never failed their entire life, and they finally fail when they're 50 and just right off the end of the cliff.
They lose it.
Yeah. I'm not saying don't prep, but I'm saying I hope that you have one significant challenge where you're like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. Like, you pass through first time, every time on everything. It's like, that's cool. Your name goes on a board. You get the buck knife. Cool, whatever. It's like, have you really overcome anything really challenging yet? And a lot of people, they don't. It's like, I want my selection to suck. Not because of lack of physical preparation, but because the course itself was so hard. And I feel like I definitely earned mine. Like, it sucked. And I would never want to do it again. Never. But I'm glad I got through.
It's crazy. No air 5 minutes.
Oh, dude. I mean,
physically wrestling people.
Yeah. But I mean, you got guys in there that it's effortless for them.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, like, I want to be like that, but then I don't. I'm like, I feel so much better that I had to go through all of that bullshit. I finally did, I did get rolled. I had to come back. And to guys who never had to fail anything in their life, when you fail that, and you have to make that phone call back home to mom and dad, I just got rolled for pole comp, and you have to sit there and wait. I don't know how long you rolled for, a month, 2 months. Have to sit there and wait and watch your class continue, and you have to join the class behind him. It sucks even worse, dude. It sucks even worse.
But then you would have met Cole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, the class I rolled into was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Some of the best people I've ever met come out of that class, so I'm really fortunate. But it was not easy.
No, I'm sure it wasn't. It must have been something watching everyone move up and you get held back. So after that, you go to closed circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a
dive in a dragger.
totally different experience, obviously.
But to me, I thought it was easier. I mean, you still do a bunch of different build-up with all that stuff, but I enjoy diving dragger. Lower depth. It's more of an art. Like, you have to be really good with closed circuit. Open circuit, it's kind of like recreational diving. It's like, whatever. Closed circuit's where it's at. You have to learn open circuit to do closed circuit. You're supposed to. It's natural progression. But I thought a closed circuit was super cool. Getting some methodology and getting some really cool TTP, some tactical stuff kind of come into it. But I thought the closed circuit stuff was fun. I didn't mind that at all.
And the pool comp is that like a first phase?
Second phase.
Second phase.
You get through all the bullshit, then beating the hell out of you, do Hell Week, come out of Hell Week, couple more weeks, then you start second phase. Get through all that, third phase. It's like the land warfare phase, demolition, shooting.
Is that the SQT portion?
That's after that.
After that. So what's third phase called?
A third phase.
Just third phase.
Yep.
And how was that for you as an experience?
I thought it was great, man. I didn't grow up shooting pistol really at all, so that was challenging. Shooting that SIG 226 was not an easy thing for a lot of the guys to do. But running around with carbines was super cool. They introduce you to fire and maneuver and a little bit of IAD work, and a lot of them are Vietnam tactics and stuff like that. But it's really good for shoot, move, communicate, like seeing the whole force move, understanding roles and responsibilities, angles and distance, overlapping fields of fire, intersecting fields of fire, when you can get up, when you can't get up, what happens if that guy stands up right now, like all that different stuff, and seeing it actually move around on uneven terrain was cool to see.
What's IAD?
It's like your individual movement. So if you would do like a break contact drill,
okay,
that's essentially what it is. We kind of changed terminology over the years, but yeah.
So post 9/11, you guys were learning Vietnam.
To my knowledge, unless they've changed it, that block is probably still foundationally around Vietnam. Like, we weren't wearing plate carriers. We never even heard night vision. There was no ballistic plates. There was no helmets. There were none of that.
Yeah.
You didn't do any of it. It was all walking around in Vietnam issued web gear.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah.
Could have had your dad's.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like all this stuff. I'm like, I mean, that stuff's been in circulation for 25 years.
Yeah.
Every class kind of recycles. You tape it up for you, but I mean, it's not good. It's not good gear.
Now, do you have the same cadre from
Mm-mm.
first phase?
Yeah, different cadre. for
Different
all of
cadre.
them.
Has their attitude or were they still giving you extra love as you progressed through the
Oh, yeah.
phases? It
Mhm.
never let up?
Yep. Because a lot of those guys will still work. The second, third phase will still work hell week.
Okay.
Just to get to see you. And everything after first phase has a danger factor associated to it. So
Right.
diving is inherently dangerous. Like you can really get jammed up really, really quick if you're not careful. And that's why they're so strict on you. It's like, brother, if you plant your foot on that one more time, I'm shit canning you. Like, oh, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Well, if you plant your foot and you blow up to the surface with a full breath of compressed air, your dishes are done, dude. And it's the instructor who has to catch you and drive you back down to the bottom and make you exhale. And it's a hard thing to do when somebody's panicking. It's like if you show one sign, you're going to bolt to the surface. They'll come over, they'll knock your knee down, they'll hold you down, they'll press you to the floor, they'll shove a regulator in your mouth, like anything so you don't do that. The cadre out there is super professional. They are locked on. And ultimately they're there for your safety. They want you to get through the training process without getting hurt. But it's dangerous. Now when you get to third phase, now you're talking about demo, and messing around with caps, high explosives, shooting, moving, at night, all the different components. Like you really have to be squared away. The cadre is super professional. But I mean, they're still beating the hell out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Everything just gets compounded. So say in first phase, if you get dropped, like cadre randomly walks by, it's like, man, he dropped, you knock out 25. I think when you get to second phase, we'll say it's 50.
Mm-hmm.
It might be less. It might be 35. I don't know. We'll say it's 50. You get every time you get dropped down, man, you drop down, you automatically know it's 50. You knock out 50, mission recover, and you run off. Third phase, it grows again, and maybe third phase is 50. But they do pull-ups before every meal, and it's like all these little physical check-ins you have to do. You're getting stronger as you go, but you're also getting broke down as you go.
Mm-hmm.
The cadre start to get a little cooler because you're almost there. But I mean, we had guys get shit canned in mine the day we graduated SQT. I mean, 10 minutes from getting tridents on, guys getting canned.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
We can dive into that in
Yeah,
a
we'll
few.
dive in that later.
Yeah. Now, was there any fun part that you like about third phase?
I thought the whole thing was cool because you actually started to feel like what you thought it'd be like in the teams, and that's the kind of stuff that I grew up seeing. The demo, the run around, that kind of gear. I didn't know anything about the GWAT because my dad didn't fight in GWAT.
Right.
Like he didn't have any combat, so I'd never seen anything like that. So when you'd see the new instructors come in, they had a different mystique about them, a little bit different aura about them. You'd see the guys just came back from Iraq, and you're like, I just came back from Iraq. Oh shit. Or you'd see guys like roll through the compound who used to be cadre 5 classes ago. They just came back from Afghanistan. They've got this huge ass beard, and before they shave it, they come walk through the compound, and he's like, how cool is that? And that kind of stuff.
What year was this in third phase?
Sometime 2003.
Okay.
Yeah, 2003.
A couple years after 9/11. And these guys are coming back even more weathered
Yeah.
and seasoned.
It was cool, man. It was cool to see because it was you were getting to watch it unfold.
Yeah.
So you'd see cadre that would leave and then come back, and guys that would, kind of just cycle through, and you're like, or guys who just came back who are going to be new instructors behind you, and you're like, oh, dude, how cool is that? That guy's just coming back in here. I don't know. It was always cool to see. One of the things people always ask me about how I prepared for buds. Did I do enough, and would I change anything else? It's like, universally, if I essentially just did Stu Smith's program, I think that's what the majority of people do. Heavy calisthenics, a little bit of weights, but basically prepping for the screen test. Because if you don't get through that, you can't go to buds. And I think that methodology still reigns true today. If you don't get through the screen test, nobody cares how many 8-count bodybuilders you can do, or how good you are under a boat, or how long you can stay awake. None of that matters. If you don't pass the bare minimums and able to do them sick as shit with a headwind, losing a fin, like if you can't pass those things, it's kind of over for you anyway. It's like if you just prep for that event, knowing you still have room in the tank, you'll be fine to go to buds. I think a lot of people, they try to peak and they end up peaking before they get a boot camp, and then they hit this down slope, and it's so hard to rebuild back up.
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying to peak in buds. You're trying to be that C plus at B minus student. Like, I got plenty of room in the tank, but if I peak at week 4, and then we go into hell week,
That's it.
now I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, that's not when you want to peak. Ideally, you peak in SQT. You know what I mean? Like, you just, hey, I'm going to come in high. I'm going to get broken down completely. I'm going to maintain a reasonable average. I'm going to get through everything incrementally, a little stronger, a little more connected. I graduate, and then I'll focus on rebuild and recovery. Because you're going every single day. Even on the weekends, like, you're not really resting. Because
Right.
you've got room inspections on Monday. So all day Saturday is trying to recover. And then midway through Saturday, you're stripping your floor, you're waxing, you're polishing, uniform inspections, picking up this, picking up that, all the other ancillary stuff you have to do. There's a lot of backside that nobody ever gets to see that it's taxing on students.
Going through
But it's worth
buds
it.
and, you know, I always hear people talk about mindset and mind over matter. And were there dudes out there who were in buds Hell Week that you were like, oh, this guy's going to blow it? Or this guy looks like a specimen. He's gonna walk right through this thing.
Yeah.
And it turns out they didn't.
Yeah, I did.
How often does that happen? And why do you think that happens?
It happens more often than you would think. If you went through not knowing anything and you told the entire class, whoever's going through right now, everybody take your shirts off. Pick who you think will make it based off body type, you'd be wrong almost 80% of the time. I mean, dude, we had guys in my class, like, if they would have had social media back then, they'd be the biggest fitness influencer you've ever seen. I mean, freaks. People, top 3 physical specimens I've ever seen in my life today.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all the people I've ever seen, were in that buds class. Made it 2 weeks, quit. You get them super cold, get them super tired, it's over. They don't care.
Has
Like,
that ever
they're just
bothered
not-
you?
What's that?
Being cold and tired, was that?
It was always just, for me, it was one of the prereqs. Like, I knew it was going to suck. I knew we were going to be cold. I knew we were going to be wet for 6 straight months. I just knew it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it wasn't a culture shock to me at all. And, you know, I don't remember advertising very often. People knew that my dad was in the teams. They knew that I was kind of in the circle. But I would tell guys, like, we'd be in there getting surf tortured. I was like, fellas, this ain't going to stop. Like, we're just going to do this shit for 6 months. Like, just get over it. Don't worry about it. Like, they're not going to kill us. Yeah, just accept it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, I can't wait to be out of first phase. There's no more fucking log PT. We'd look down the beach and Team 1 would be out there doing log PT on a Tuesday. It's like Team PT. And I'm like, this ain't stopping, dude. Like, when I grew up on the East Coast, Rudy Bosch, that old crusty fucker,
Mm-hmm.
was still running around Team 2. And it's like, I've seen the PTs they do. I mean, 10-mile conditioning runs, 3-4 mile ocean swims, buddy carry ruck run. Like, I've seen the whole thing. Like, they do this shit all the time, dude.
Yeah.
Like, double lower courses, you know, 2 bigs and a small, a beach run, a monster mash. Like, this is what it is. This is what it's going to be. Now, I didn't have any of the GWAT spillover to really know how the training was going to stop it. Like, this is it, dude. Like, we're going to be doing 2-mile swims for a very long time. We just need to get used to it and suck it up. But I never had any issue with the cold water. I mean, it sucked. Like, I don't enjoy being cold at all. But when you're in it and you're in it with a group, it's that shared misery. And I'd always make a joke. Like, at least we're not fucking cold. If it was cold, it'd really suck.
Mm-hmm.
A couple guys would laugh, and you'd see people just get up and walk. They quit.
Just like that.
Damn, man, just like that. Like, you're going to throw it all away right now for this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
to me, it didn't warrant it. Like, the majority of people I saw, there was never an opportunity where I was like, I'm quitting. Like, this is too much for me, I'm done.
Right.
I mean, some people do. They hit it and they're like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is miserable. Why? Do you not think we were going to get wet? Like, they're just, they're laying us down. And that's some of the stuff, like, your perception's sometimes all you need. I tell guys now, like, when you're in the surf zone being surf tortured at buds during broad daylight, you just look that way. Look at all those families that are 300 yards down the beach, body surfing. Little kids in pink flamingos just jumping around the water, having the best time. Just your perception. You think it sucks because you're sitting here. It's like, if you realize that these are all just normal people,
Mm-hmm.
and that at 4 o'clock they're all going to jump in their cars and drive home, go pick up their kids from ballet recital. They're going to swing by Whole Foods and grab a to-go meal. They're going home and see their wives. They're watching Netflix tonight, just like you are. They're the same people.
Yeah.
Like this whole thing's about to come to an end in 4 hours, and all you got to do is be here at the end of it, and people can't see it. It's like, I can't do another minute. Like, what? Well, brother, it ain't that bad. Like, I get it, it's cold, but it ain't that bad. Like, you ain't dying out here. You're fine.
Yeah.
People just, they get overcome by events.
It's funny because not a whole lot of people know that Coronado, the beach you guys go do your surfing, your sugar cookies, your log PTs, it's connected to a public beach.
Yeah.
How surreal was that?
Well, I mean, when you do the 4 mile time run, you run right in front of the Hotel Del.
Mm-hmm.
So you run right past, you turn around, and you run right back. When you do the 2 mile ocean swims, you swim 200 yards off the beach, all the way down in front of all those people.
Mm-hmm.
So when we would swim, you and your swim buddy face next to each other, so you're swimming. And when you go down, I mean, back then it was very common. All the chicks would just flash you. They just see you. They're in the top of the Hotel Del. Shirts come off. Everybody's waving. They're trying to take photos. Those little bullshit wind up.
Yeah.
Anytime you're doing a run, they'd stop. Like, people would run up next to you trying to take a photo with you. It's like, I don't know how it is now, but I mean, it was.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, like, you were like a hometown hero. Because all the people live in Coronado, like, they've been seeing you this whole time.
Right.
They see you running across the beach. They got to stop in traffic for the whole class to run. You got boats on your heads. I mean, they watch it. And yeah, I mean, for me, like, I loved it. And when you're walking around Coronado and you see all the kids with shaved heads, you know exactly who they are. Like,
Yeah.
there's not 300 people that are jet black from having the best suntan you've ever seen with a bunch of skinheads
Mm-hmm.
that are actually in shape. I mean, they all come from that place.
Yeah.
Now we all know it.
That's cool.
Oh, it was cool, dude.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go through Buds again, but I had a great time. I mean, considering I spent my senior year there, I loved it.
Do you think there's a difference? We might be jumping ahead, but do you think there's a difference now in Buds versus Buds in 2003?
Yeah.
As far as difficulty, the culture.
I don't know because I haven't done it. I haven't been an instructor out there, but I will say that a lot less people knew what a Navy SEAL was back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have to vet through all of these different people. Like, we were always in a manning shortage, but there was no real need to grow the force.
Right.
And now that, they're in popular culture, movies, video games, all this other stuff, a lot more people want to be SEALs. I will say the physical standard has increased drastically. Like, for you to get orders to Buds now, like, I congratulate people all the time. Like, do I got orders to Buds? I'm like, dude, congratulations, my friend. Because I know what numbers you had to put up to get there. Like, you just didn't walk in off the street and be like, I just knocked one out. Yeah, I got orders. No. Like, you have to be getting some serious numbers to go because there's so many people that want to go. So it's harder to get into Buds now. I will say the cultural shift cannot be ignored. It's very different now than it was 20 years ago. Just
or more
the teams
PC.
in general. More PC, more people that are looking to fuck people over, for sure. There's more rules on the cadre, which I don't think there should be. Everybody wants to be kinder, gentler. They want, universal standards for men and women. There's no reason. There's no women that are going through that program.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Right? Like, it doesn't. Yeah, people want everything to be easier because they think if you make more of something, it'll be better. It's not the case.
What were the speaking of standards? What were the physical standards for you guys to
get in?
get in?
Oh, dude, it's so easy when you write it down on paper. It looks like such bullshit. It kicked off with 500-meter swim. Don't ask me the time. I don't remember it. 500-meter swim, no fins, no mask, no goggles. Either side stroke or breaststroke. You had to immediately get out. You had to do 42 push-ups, followed by 50 sit-ups, followed by 8 pull-ups, followed by a 1.5-mile run. And pretty easy to do. It's the same standard now. I don't think it's changed at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's the minimum entry is just so much higher. Like, back in the day, like, if you passed, like, if you did 50 push-ups instead of 42, like, you're in. If you did 39, you're out.
Mm.
Right? If you just pass it, you're going. And that's what most of the guys did. Like, I just passed mine. Passed mine and went. If you're not in the 100 push-up, 100 sit-up, 20 pull-up, super fast run, super fast swim, brother, you ain't going. You're just not. the minimum standard is so much higher, even though they don't advertise it. Because I see it, because, I mean, they got guys right up here at the YMCA. They meet every week trying to do these screen tests, and, you know, you see a bunch of guys walking around with these clipboards, U.S. they're not SEALs, just a bunch of random recruiters that try to be tough. And I've hit up, back when I used to have a membership there, I'd hit him up, like, let me see the numbers. And I'm looking at him. He's like, yeah, this guy's not going to make it, this guy's not going to make it. I'm like, look at the numbers. They're all passing. He's like, this dude is the last guy they had orders, and he was like 120 push-ups, 120 sit-ups, 35 pull-ups, and he's like, he was on a wait list for 6 months.
Wow.
Damn. He's like, he didn't have those numbers when he first started. He's had to get there in order to jump all these other people. It's like that.
Damn.
Your scores elevate you. So if you're in a pool of 100 kids, and you drop in, and we'll say number 60 did 50, 50, blah, 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 and you jump in and you're like 110, 105, 30 pull-ups, like, whoop, you're number 3. And if they're taking batches of 20 and send them to buds, you're going the first wave out. You're good. It's like, that's how it needs to be. You have to be, it's so much more physically competitive now. You also have a lot more eyes on you now. Like a lot of people hear about the teams and they want to join, and
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. You got to weed through a lot more shit because a lot more people know about it. But if they deserve to be there, they deserve to be there.
So when you got out of phase 3, you move on to...
Go to, we went to Army Jump School. They have our own jump school now. They do it all still in San Diego. A little bit of static line, straight into free fall, and then you start SQT, which is a little more advanced training, but if we're being honest, it's like a familiarization course.
What's a SQT for those who don't know?
SEAL qualification training.
And that basically entails?
They'll do a little bit of everything. More patrolling, more navigation, more land warfare, more diving, jumping, some full mission profile stuff, a little bit of intro to CQB, some more advanced shooting, but I don't even know if they do night vision. I don't know if they do any of that. They didn't when I was in. Like, we never got issued any of that. So when I checked in the team, it was very different.
Do you like doing that, SQT? You like that portion?
I did it because it... You understand, I'm an idealist, so when I checked in SQT, I liked it more because it smelt like a team.
Right.
The cage area, the gym, like, this is what I'm used to. Like, this is the building that I'm used to. The chlorine smell, the salt water right on the bay, like, this feels like home. Not that Buds didn't, but Buds didn't smell like a SEAL team. It smelled different.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who's ever been in a team will tell you that. Like, there's a certain smell that the old teams had. It's like a mixture of chlorine, soda sorb from the diving, sweat, mildew, gun oil, like CLP. Like, there's a very distinct smell when you walk into it. I'm sure, like, if you ask guys at 75th Ranger Regiment, like, hey, when I walk through the buildings, can you tell you're in the Ranger? Like, if somebody teleported you, like, where are you right now? Yep. There's a very distinct smell. When you got the SQT, you smelt it. You're like, okay. And it's like a mixture, like, the rubber from the fins, the wetsuits, like, all the different things you do. It has a very distinct smell.
Yeah.
And it felt like you were home. So I loved SQT. The guy that was running it was a really good buddy of my family's. I grew up with him. His daughter, his sons, I knew they were very a legacy family in the SEAL teams.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. So it was cool. It was cool going out there. Like, I've known him my entire life. So it was cool going there and seeing that.
Was that also pretty cool seeing him in his element?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, dude, it was surreal. And you get to go out to Alaska, and I knew a bunch of the dudes that were out there. I mean, for me, it was cool because it was like one step closer, and it was like, this feels right. This feels familiar. And now I feel like I'm almost there. I'm almost there. And then you check in the team, it's like, oh, almost.
Was SQT, you get the cold weather training through SQT phase as well?
Mm-hmm.
And this was in Alaska.
Yeah.
How cold is cold?
I'll tell you what, I've been colder outside of there. I've been colder on real ops, for sure. Which is surprising. Yeah, I mean, like, and, you know, a lot of them, they're trying to build your confidence. Like, in Alaska, they would tell you, like, hey, we're going to do a river crossing. You're going to wear all of your shit. Everything's going to be soaking wet. Okay. He's like, we're all going to jump in. We're going to get completely soaked head to toe. We're going to stay in the water for 5 minutes. We're going to induce hypothermia. Then we're going to get out and do a rewarming drill. Rewarming, you say? What is this? We're going to jump in our sleeping bags, and we're going to pop a tent up real quick, and we're going to get completely in our sleeping bags with all of our clothes on, minus our boots, and it's going to dry ourselves out in like 4 hours. I'm like, in my mind, I'm an idiot. I'm like, you think that I'm going to get soaking wet, not wring anything out, get inside that sleeping bag, it's going to warm me up? And he goes, yep. It's going to end up being like a giant dryer. It's going to dry out everything you have overnight. Sure thing. Sure shit. Everything.
Say again?
Yeah.
Dry?
Uh-huh.
Really?
Uh-huh. Your body turns into like this weird oven, and it cooks off all the moisture. And it dries your clothes. You should wear them. It's the weirdest thing. If you take all those clothes and you put them in the bottom of your bag and change out in the dry clothes and think it'll work, it won't.
You gotta wear it.
You gotta wear them. And they do drills like that. It's like we'd go out in these crazy long humps, and he'd talk about taking off the bags. I think it's where Cole got addicted to taking the tags off things and cutting off extra material and shit. Like one of the instructors came out with this huge 5-gallon Ziploc bag, and he goes, this is 3.5 pounds of useless shit. These are all the extra zippers, all the extra pull tabs, all the extra labels that are on all your gear, and this is what I saved in 15 minutes. You're like, oh, shit. So we all started doing that, and breaking in boots, how to actually break them in, just all the stuff. Calories in, calories out, like conserving energy, what kind of food does best. Random stuff, but it was cool. It was super fun.
How long was cold weather training?
Dude, I think you're up there for a month.
Oh, wow.
I think so. I mean, you're living on a base, and you go out, and it's very structured, the training progression you do. Everything in the teams it's very structured.
All these training progressions has prepped you for mental resiliency.
Yeah.
And that's what helped you go through basically throughout your whole career, pushing the envelope, joining the unit, and all that.
I think a lot of the stuff it gets you comfortable with like the micro wins, like being successful at things you didn't know were even something to kind of measure against, or things you didn't know, and now it's just more knowledge you've now absorbed. And you're like, shit, man, if I look back at the week, it's been a really good week. Like, I'm so much better off on Friday than I was on Monday.
Yeah.
And that just keeps happening over and over. And even on the times that are like really, really tough, you feel so much more accomplished when you get done with it. You'll look at it and you're like, dude, we had 50 dudes quit this week. I didn't even think about quitting, which is weird. Like, how are all these dudes, like the freaks, the physical phenoms, just dropping like flies? Like, why? Why? First time they were challenged. First time they ever hit something where they didn't think they could push through, and they just quit the first sign of duress. You're like, shit. And sometimes you feel bad for them. Like, man, I bet that dude would have been badass. Maybe not.
Just the pressure gets to him.
Yeah. But I think stacking up the micro wins and being successful at the little things, it beasts up that confidence. And then when you get inside the entire group, you're watching everybody else be successful. And even if you're not, someone else is there to help you. It's like you're having an issue with this or having an issue with that. Somebody's just naturally going to help you, which is cool. Because teams for a reason.
Right.
There's a lot of courses where it's all only just individuals. The teams aren't like that at all. Everything's done in at least a 2-man.
Have a buddy.
Nice to have. Yeah, it's always nice to have.
When
bounce ideas off of, save each other.
Right. When did you guys graduate?
You asked me a bunch of questions I don't know. End of 2003, the early 04.
And this is class 246?
247.
247. You're at 246 rolled back, so now you're 247.
Yep. Yeah, we finished up Alaska. We were in like the last week or so. They asked for some volunteers. They came in, big classroom, everybody's in there, and he's like, hey, these are all the teams where everybody's going. They're reading them all off. And he's like, we need 10 volunteers to go to Team 10 early to make an early deployment. Like, all these hands shot up in the air. And it's funny because Cole's hand shot up in the air. And the guy's looking at the thing. He's like, we've only got 7 volunteers, but you're going to Team 1. And he's like, anybody want to swap me for Team 1 for Team 10? He's like, I'm from Virginia Beach. Like, he asked for the West Coast. He wanted to be out there and go surfing. And I think he could see the difference between East Coast and West Coast from the instructor staff.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he'd ever admit that. I could tell. I could tell East Coast versus West Coast instructor staff.
Did you like the East Coast guys better?
I did,
More?
personally. Nothing wrong with the West Coast guys. Some of the dudes were super cool.
Right.
But you could tell the vibe was very different. Like, the East Coast guys is what I'm used to. Wearing flannel, spitting Copenhagen. Very much what I saw. On the weekends, you would see them shift. You would see the guys out in town who were East Coast, and you're like, definitely an East Coast move. You'd see the guys on the West Coast, and you're like, oh, what?
What's the West Coast vibe?
Perfect hair, sunglasses. They look like Ken dolls, a lot of them. They would wear very flashy shirts, stuff like that. And, I mean, like, super badass dudes. But you won't see that on the East Coast. That's just not how they are. They've never been like that. So, like, I could see that.
Right. So you volunteered, Cole volunteered.
Cole swapped orders with a guy.
To
Give me your orders for East Coast. I'll give you my orders from Team 1. They swapped. He volunteered. We were still down like 3 guys. There were plenty of dudes to volunteer. And then a bunch of guys, they didn't want to. They wanted a break, and they wanted to take some time off and go back home to family. We're like, fuck that. Like, we're gone. We jumped in a car, me and 3 dudes, and drove straight across, checked in. And it's weird because when you check into the team, you get put into platoons.
Mm-hmm.
The guys who didn't volunteer came in later and were basically put in like this motley crew to where you're not in a platoon. You're just a new guy that has to watch all the rest of the new guys deployed.
Purgatory.
Yeah, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
well, let's talk about you getting your trident. So was this right after Alaska?
mm-hmm.
Before going east to the East Coast.
Yep. So they used to do it back in the day. Buds is the big graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Buds is the one where your family all comes into. SQT is like a closed door. 40 people in a room. They don't say shit. You just do it. Do whatever you want to do. Have a little class party, and then you're gone. It's kind of anticlimactic.
Okay.
It's a little bit different now, but for us, yeah, we were all, you go through all your stuff. You're starting your checkout process, getting medical and dental and stuff done. The guys going to the East Coast are getting prepped for that. And we were sitting in an upstairs classroom in dress camis. That's what they're going to pin you on. So it's just U.S. Navy. There's nothing on there. Your name tapes, and then they're going to slap a gold trident on it, like actually pin you with it. And we were upstairs in the briefing, and whoever our class proctor is was in there putting out some word, and one of the dudes in the class, his cell phone went off. And he answers it in the middle of this briefing with one of the cadre. And the cadre looks at me, he's like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I gotta take this real quick, and walks outside. And I'll never forget that cadre looks at him, looks at all of us, he's like, and stares at the door and doesn't say shit to us.
How long was that?
Minutes, dude. Like, I don't know who that dude was talking to. His mother, maybe, talking his wife into where to meet for the the graduation's happening in less than a half hour.
Mm-hmm.
We're walking downstairs and we're getting pinned. Like, the captain's there. It's happening right now. That dude walked back in. He's like, step outside real quick. That cadre follows him back outside, and we never saw him again. Booted him out of the whole program.
Damn, he didn't get his trident.
Nope. Kicked him out. That dude, I'm not going to put his name out there because the internet's infinite, but he was the oldest dude in our class. I think he started Buds at 35. Got rolled with me, second phase, had a couple injuries, but super accomplished. And I think that was part of his issue. He played in a Rose Bowl. He was an actor. He was a ski instructor at Whistler. He was like Dos Equis guy. He was like the most interesting dude you ever seen.
Right.
And he reminded me, I equate everybody to a dog. He was like a fucking Saint Bernard. He don't want to chase your tennis ball, dude. He's over it. He wants to sit down and not be fucked with. And that was his fatal flaw. Is you were too old and too seasoned to play the game the way they wanted it played. I would have never answered that phone. Everybody in there under 22 years old would have never answered. Would have never done this. Give me a second. To an instructor? No, not a fucking chance, dude.
That definitely got him, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. He never came back. And I've never seen him again. And everybody I've talked to in that class, they all remember it. It was never even talked about.
Do you know whatever happened to him?
Canned him out of the program. I'm sure he had 2 years left in the Navy, did some bullshit job somewhere, and got out.
Went back in the fleet or something?
Oh, there's no way. I'm sure they put him in the fleet for 2 years or whatever, and then
yeah,
I'm sure he got out. There's no way. But, he was a physical stud. I really liked him, but it was crazy. Like, I mean, you're under 30 minutes away from being done with this whole process.
God, so close to the
Walk
line.
down, gone, and they didn't even brief it. Like that. That was the crazy thing to me, is when he came back in, he's like, "You guys all ready?" Like, yeah. He's like, "Don't worry about your head count. You're down one." Okay, we called all our names, and he was never there.
Did he go back in the room at all, or no?
We went back. No, we went back to the barracks to check out. He was already gone.
Wow.
Out of his barracks room. Like they're quick about it, dude. But when they shit can you, you're gone.
Jeez.
And, yeah, I never saw him again. Yeah, we walked downstairs. They do them all in order, all in alphabetical order, whatever. Probably down. They walk down, just pin everybody, shake your hand, do whatever. And as soon as they finish the last guy, he's like, "Class, 247, you are secure," whatever they said. And we all sprinted out, and we all dove off the back end, on the back of like a pier. So we all dove into the water, all treading water, big tridents on, doing the whole thing.
There's a photo of that.
Yeah, we picked up Tyrone Woods, one of the guys that got killed in Benghazi.
Yeah.
He's our class proctor, which he is fucking awesome. Everybody loved that dude. We picked his ass up and threw his ass over the wall. Threw him in the water with us. We loved him, dude. He was so cool. He was such a good representation. Not to go off on a tangent. Tyrone Woods was such a good representation of what you want a senior-ish SEAL to be like.
Yeah.
He looked the part, acted the part. He represented the community in everything he did. He was a physical freak. He got on the range. He knew all his shit, but he bred a culture you wanted to be a part of. Like, if that dude was putting it out, you wanted to absorb it. He was never one of those egotistical dudes. He was one of those guys who'd walk up like. And that's what's so cool about the SEAL teams is you could have an interaction where the cadre's beating the fuck out of you. I mean, they're crushing you. If you can't do anymore, you're 1,000 push-ups into this thing. You're blowing snot. I mean, like, back and forth to surf. So I mean, it's been going for hours, and you'll get done with it, and secure, and you all run back there to this little honeycomb hideout. And dudes are popping in Copenhagen. They're drinking Gatorade, like trying to shower up, just trying to have nobody see them. And one of the cadre would just appear, like one of the cool ones. He'd like plop down. He's like, "That fucking sucked, huh?" Yeah. And he's like, "And you pussies got a dip on you?" "Yeah, I got one." And he'd sit back there, he'd throw a dip, and he's like, "All right, man, we got about 45 minutes before one of these assholes comes around here and fucks with us. Hit me with some questions, man. What do you guys want to know about the teams?"
That's cool.
Super cool, dude. Super cool.
That's cool.
Tyrone was like that. He'd come over and, like, on these days, it's a dick dragger. He'd come over, he's like, "Hit me with it. What do you guys want to know?" Like, we'd have guys, younger guys from, like, the West Coast teams that would, like, cruise by. And I never had the opportunity to do it because I was always on the East Coast, but I always thought that was super cool. They'd swing by. They knew a little hangout you'd be at. They'd, like, pop in, like, "Hey, you boys holding up?" Like, just got the shit kicked out of so-and-so. He's like, "That ain't going to stop, dude. What do you guys want to know?" Like, how's being a new guy? How's checking in? They give you a little info like this and that. And like, oh, super cool. The cadre are really good about doing that. Breaking up the monotony and not always being super cynical, not always being the tyrant, but breaking up and having like a human component.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I love that.
Can you share anything in regards to buds? Something fun? Like a fun experience you might have had? You ever get in trouble? Anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, man. We'll have to do. We'll have to talk about that one offline. We'll have to do that in a separate video because that's a doozy of a story. Airsoft came out while I was in Buds.
Okay.
And a couple of the guys who got rolled. So you have 3 decks at the main berthing area. First deck, second deck, third deck. And on the third deck is usually for third phase. We had a couple guys that got hurt in third phase. So now they're brown shirt rollbacks. They've already got the red helmets, but now they're going to be there. Some guys that get rolled for 6 months, like they get really hurt. And a couple of the guys bought airsoft guns. And right around that same time, there were crazy forest fires going on in California. So Buds was shut down for like a 10-day span. I mean, there was ash everywhere, dude. Like, the whole beach was just covered in soot. Everything in the berth, and they didn't want you running around in it. Like, it was this weird admin time. And that dude would sit up there with this fucking sniper rifle of an airsoft gun and shoot dudes all day long. So every time you'd walk out, you'd catch one. It was so bad that we would have to buy... you'd have to buy swim goggles and stage them in areas because you got put under fire. There's nowhere to run. I mean, these dudes would pin you down. You'd be in a crossfire. It was like running through like enemy at the gates. Like you couldn't get through anything.
Yeah.
You go to do your laundry, And then finally guys got caught on. They were like, fuck this. You couldn't walk outside without glasses on. You just be getting peppered. So guys would walk up their laundry basket and they'd have an airsoft gun underneath like the first towel. And you'd see him, the guy would pop out and look at you like, get hammered down, be in these full-on firefights. We did that all weekend. Everybody's drinking, doing all your shit. We wake up Monday morning, they're going to do a room inspection. And we didn't realize that those things aren't biodegradable.
Oh, boy.
100,000 of them. I mean, dude.
It's BBs everywhere.
It looked like it snowed. It's just nothing but white. He's picking up, he's like, what the fuck is this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't know. They're still going through everybody's room. They're finding all these airsoft guns. They're going back to, like, where the showers and all this stuff are. There's, like, extra goggles hung up, like, just so you can get out of this place alive. Because if not, I mean, you just get chewed up, dude. It was kind of a nightmare after a while. But we do pranks. Like, when you got older in the class, we had the guy whose dad was running SQT, he would steal his dad's Bud's instructor shirt. It's the only way to get one. UDT SEAL instructor. That's what all the cadre wore. And he would give them to dudes. Once you get in third phase, you kind of grow out your hair a little bit. But they'd always wear this one hat. They'd wear this hat, you put on glasses, and they'd walk around. So you didn't know. So some of the guys who were bigger that looked older, we would prank the guys who were getting ready to class up for Buds, like the white shirts who hadn't done Hell Week. You'd come by and like, fucking drop, and you beat the shit out of them. Did that quite a bit, make them go hit the surf. That happened one night. We were out there drinking, underage, no big deal. And he's doing the whole thing, beating him, and he turns around, and one of the cadre is standing behind him.
Oof.
Brother, you talking about getting beat. You talking about your Saturday turning into a miserable weekend? Yeah, dude. Oh, come here, boys. Like, oh, shit. He beat us all weekend, dude. It was great. Yeah,
you guys were guilty by association.
Yeah, man. Oh, you're out there laughing. You're having fun, too. You're in it, brother. Yeah. But Buds was great, dude. It sucked, but for the most part, if you look back at the whole experience, you learn so much about yourself and it immerses you so much in the culture that by the time you get out of it, I think that's why guys are hook, line, and sinker so much. They do such a good job of getting you in there that by the time you get to the process, you're like, dude, this is it for me. This is all I ever wanted. This is it. Yeah, people fall in love with that organization really, really fast. And I think it's because of Buds and cadre.
Well, let's close this episode out. But before we do, when you graduated, did family come?
For the Buds graduation, my mother and my father came for Buds graduation. For SQT, nothing.
How was that when your mom and dad showed up?
It was awesome. I mean, he knew a bunch of the dudes, so he got to pin he got to hand me my Buds certificate. So you go up there, you salute the CO, shake his hand, he gives you the cert. Give the old man a hug, shake his hand, and then you walk all the way down to the cadre.
And was he still active duty at that time?
He had me and him did a 1-for-1.
Oh,
so the same month he retires, the same month I joined.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when he showed up, he was in full uniform?
No, he was civilian.
He was civilian?
He was contracted in Blackwater then.
Oh, cool.
But it was cool because you could go through all the cadre and like all the dudes I know, or all the dudes I knew back then, then it was very different. It's like, hey, congratulations, you fucking pussy. Like, the whole thing is like, cool. And then the guys that, because there's instructors in here, I don't care what anybody says, like, you fall in love with a couple of them. You're like, I just want to be like this dude so bad. And when you're finally done, like when you finally get to shake his hand, like it's such a fanboy moment because you either hated this dude for the last 6 months or you've just worshipped him. And either way, you're done.
Right.
Like the next time you're going to see this dude be in a platoon together or whatever, it's like you're finally done. You're like, dude, thank you so much. You actually get through. You actually have to go back and talk to him like, you were a magnificent. I probably said that to half a dozen dudes like, you changed my entire perspective on this entire experience, dude. Like, thank you so much for being the way you were. Even the hard asses, like, you were a magnificent instructor, dude. And a lot of those guys, I've stolen a lot of their delivery and kind of just kept it with me my entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some fantastic people.
How was that? Was there like a feeling in regards to, hey, I truly am one of you guys now?
No.
No.
Not until you're in the team for a couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you're a new guy, you're still a new guy. You're always a new guy to somebody.
Right. All right. To finally close it out, there's an infamous photo of you floating around the internet. My daddy's a Navy SEAL and you're eating a donut. What's that all about?
That's not a donut. It's a piece of pizza when we secured Hell Week. And it was supposed to be a joke. So I bought that shirt right before we started Hell Week. And I bought it in extra small. So if you look at that shirt, it looks like a normal shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I was probably 130 pounds when I put the thing on. Yeah, that was Friday when we finished Hell Week. Put on the sweatpants, put on that shirt, and that was supposed to be a joke because he flew in town when I graduated Buds, and we took those photos of my dad is a Navy SEAL, my son's a Navy SEAL. Like, not really, but it was just one of those funny photos.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it was. I did it as a joke because all the guys who didn't know I was a legacy, they found out why I was in there, and I still made it. I'm like, oh, fuck you guys. I put the thing on, and the joke was it was supposed to come with my belly button to look like I've had it since I was a child.
Yeah.
And now I've got it, and it didn't. It just looked like I wore a shirt like that. I'm like, fuck. I'm wearing it anyway. Everybody got a kick out of it. They all laughed. But
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I didn't know if it was... People don't know if it was, they gave it to you, made you wear it,
No.
made you eat it.
no, that was it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, dude, we'll have to pick up next time. We'll take off from checking with the team.
Yeah, so check in next episode. First time checking in to Team
10.
10. All right.
Well, first time checking with Team 10. We'll talk about that next time.
Sounds good.
I appreciate you, dude.
All right.